with me are two of the latest non-Tesla EV SUVs that you can buy for right at $60,000. I do want to take you on an 11-point inspection of each of these vehicles to show you how they stack up and compare. Hey gearheads, and welcome to Garage Talk. I'm Corey, and right here we have the recently updated $59,000 top trim 2025 Hyundai IONIQ 5 limited all-wheel drive. And over here we have the just released SS performance trim of the 2025 Chevrolet Blazer EV SS, stickering at $64,000 as equipped. Yes, these aren't apples to apples, but we will get into all of that to show you how they stack up and compare. Before we get too far into this one, I can already hear the keyboards clicking. Yes, I know this is not an apples to apples trim comparison. We'll touch on that a little bit because I do know there is a performance in variant of the IONIQ 5. Starts at over $60,000. I really do love that one. I've tested it here on the channel ever so briefly. And there is a more mainstream non-performance RS all-wheel drive spec that really compares with this limited trim that starts at $54,000, more in the price range of this one, actually undercutting the entry point to the limited. But these are the two vehicles that were provided to me this week from Hyundai and Chevrolet respectively. So huge thanks to both of them for allowing me to test both of these vehicles for a full week. Not only will you get this head-to-head comparison between these two, but you will get two videos on each of these, going in depth on each of these, where I talk individually about each from a performance standpoint, and then Holly drives each of them and we talk what it has been like to live with him for a full week. First up, exterior style, perhaps the most subjective and the most likely to get comments back from you down in the comment section below. And these vehicles could not be more different. While yes, they are both considered SUVs, they really are both tall wagons and are hatchbacks at their core, but they do have a lot in common between the two of them, as well as a lot of differences. Where do I rank these two and which one comes out on top? Well, let's dive into it. Let's start the style conversation up front here with the Blazer EV SS. Being that this is the SS version, it gets the most athletic, most aggressive front end styling. We get a lot of black plastic here in the grille if this were a traditional vehicle, though it does actually have grille intakes up here and down here to help keep the battery and components cool, which we'll show you when we get under the hood. Speaking of airflow, we even have some airflow that goes around the front, giving this a more aerodynamic approach as it punches its way through the wind. We also get these LED running lights and headlights across the front, LED illuminated Chevy bow tie badge up front, and this ground effects kit here because again, we are in the SS Super Sport model. It is a very aggressive look for sure, really leaning into that Camaro SUV type heritage that the Blazer now, I guess, rests on. Forget that whole K5 Blazer of the past. This platform does not lend itself to the Blazer name, and there are just some shortcomings to it. It is not a bad looking vehicle by any means whatsoever. I really do like the aggressive front fascia on this one that is unique to this SS trim. I think it looks very sharp. It has been turning a lot of heads because this SS variant is rolling out as we speak. Even the dealership here in Tyler, Texas hadn't seen an SS yet, and they were asking me, is this really an SS? To which I had to say, yeah, look at the seatbelts. I think this is more of a timeless design than what we get here with the Chevy. It has that kind of classic retro feel, and it really does translate into this pixelated electronic vision of the future. We did get some small tweaks here and there to the style for 2025, but keeps its overall simplistic design intact, which is a good thing. Not only did we love this, but it seemed like the whole automotive world loved the design of this IONIQ 5, keeping that kind of 80s future forward look and design to it. This feels like it would be just as home in the 1980s as it does here in 2025. All the pixelated elements in the lights from nose to tail in this really do give it a distinct look. We do have lighting across the entire front, but here in the bright sunlight, it's kind of hard to tell. This gray panel right here does have LED backlighting that at night does give this a very unique lighting signature. We have a faux grille up here. It is just a black shiny panel housing our front-facing camera, but we do actually have some intakes down here that open up to help cool the battery when needed and close for efficiency when that is the name of the game with the IONIQ. As we turn the two sideways, you can see both the similarities and the differences between the two. First and foremost, the size. The wheelbase of both of these being an EV first architecture means the wheelbase has been stretched as far as it can be to give most of the space to the interior occupants, whether that's people or cargo. Interestingly though, even though the Blazer is a 9-inch longer vehicle, the wheelbase is only 3 inches longer. We'll see how that translates when we hop inside. Overall, the styling differences of the two, we've got svelte and sporty and athletic. You've got that tapering roofline. You've got that very muscular muscle cart-like Coke bottle shape just behind the doors there over the rear wheels. It is giving off that very SS look. And then the fact that we've got these large 22-inch wheels with Brembo brakes back behind them. Again, emphasizing and accentuating the sportiness of this super sport model. Coming over to the Korean vehicle, it is very much retro futuristic in its design language. It looks like it would be just as home in the 80s as it does here in 2025. And they have snuck some traditional Korean design into it. This crease down the side, much like on the bigger IONIQ 9, is meant to invoke how the Korean robes and garments fold over as you wear them. So you've got that sharp crease darting down the side of the vehicle. Very angular in all its dimensions. Of course, you know, we do have some round curves here around the wheel arches, and we do get some subtle curves around that rear wheel as well, but definitely very different design approaches between the two of these. Coming to the back of each of these vehicles, again, you can see the design distinctions between the two. Svelte and athletic, and then angular, boxy, retro, future forward design. And much like what we see up front, we get these white lenses, but red brake lights back here in the back, these waterfall-like designs, the black bow tie to emphasize sportiness. But because of that plunging roof line down the side of the vehicle and these big hips here on the back of the Blazer EV, really does give us a minuscule back window here with perhaps the smallest wiper I've ever seen, but it's enough to get the job done. Coming over here to the IONIQ 5, again, small subtle changes for the 2025 model year, the biggest of which is a proper windshield wiper back here. This was our biggest complaint when we tested this vehicle when it first came out, and I suspect it was not just our complaint. So we do get a rear wiper on the back. That's the easiest way to tell a 2025 model apart. And you can see it's appropriately sized. Other designs back here, we get those pixel lights back in the back that mimic what we saw up front, giving you that kind of retro future forward design look here, but a very cleaned up, very minimalistic design back here on the back of the IONIQ, which just tracks with the rest of the design of the entire vehicle. Over here on the Blazer, since we do have the SS, we get this diffuser style rear bumper. I really don't know how many people are going to be taking their Blazer EV SS on a track, but it does give it an overall very cool, very head-turning look compared to the more plain bumper down on the bottom of the IONIQ. So that brings us to who is the winner in style. Purely subjective here, but I do have to give second place to the Blazer and first place to the IONIQ. I feel like this design has just aged better over time, even though both designs are similar in overall age. They've improved this for 2025, and it really didn't need much improvement. Though, as I said, this is the most subjective that we will get here. I'm not saying this is ugly. I'm just saying this has a more timeless design that I think will age better. This has a more athletic, more current 2025 design that I'm not quite sure how it will age. Talking about interior style, we will start with the Blazer. And this Riptide Blue exterior paint contrasts with the gray and orange Evotex interior here on our tester. As I took this to Chevrolet dealerships here in town who had yet to see an SS model, they're like, how did you get the orange? Because red is the accent trim color on the RS, but orange is the accent trim color here on the SS. I think it works very well. It is a very unique and interesting pop of color in an otherwise gray on gray interior. So I think that the use of orange is very nice. Not only do we have it here on the seats, but we have it on the seat belts as well. Coming around and sitting in the vehicle, you can see that that is not just relegated to the seats. We do have some orange stitching here on the steering wheel, which gives a nice contrasting touch to the dark gray steering wheel. We also have orange stitching with the dark gray suede here on the door panels. Again, nice contrast everywhere. We've got little pops of orange. I really like that. It really does give the vehicle a lot of character. We also have these plastic panels here that give a distinct breakup of design, of materials, of texture, of color. It all works very well, and it does coordinate quite well with these turbine style air vents that we have on the corners and these turbine style air vents that we have under the massive 17.7-inch screen. There is a lot of screen real estate in this, including a large head-up display and rearview camera mirror. We'll talk about those here in a minute, but I really do just like the overall design in here. It doesn't hurt also that orange is one of my favorite colors right next to blue. So I guess this is really my overall spec. Blue outside with all the orange accents here on the inside. The back seat of the Blazer EV is more of the same. I do like the dark gray suede inserts. And we even have this kind of blue jean denim-like material on the bolsters that we saw up front as well. So again, multiple different textures in here really help lend to the premium feeling, and all of the different colors also lend to the premium feeling. I like how that center seat is light gray while the outboard seats are dark gray. It all works very nicely, and we don't get shorted back here in the back seat either. So we get 3 orange seat belts in the rear of the vehicle. Coming to the back of the center console, we get those turbine style air vents back here, USB power, and heated outboard seats, all of which work very well and lend to the overall style and presence here on the inside of the Blazer EV SS. In line with the minimalist exterior design, we get a very minimalist interior design, but not so much so that it is Tesla-like in that we don't have physical buttons. I really do like how Hyundai has brought attention to detail here on the IONIQ without going completely minimalistic on buttons. We do get some interesting colors here on this one. Technically, this is a green on green interior. You can see here in the sunlight that this, yes, is in fact a dark green, which is more like a vanilla beige. Lower section here, we get this stone-like look with a repeat of all our pixels right there. We get different materials, textures, and colors in this one. So I really do like the overall design. It is just a little more simplistic than what we get in the Blazer. You can see we get single tone seats, nothing spectacular there. Much like in the Chevy, these are H-Tex seats, as opposed to the Chevy's Evo-Tex. All of that to say synthetic leather seats. We do have a nice luxury function here we'll touch on later, but overall very simple design to the interior. Small screens compared to the massive ones in the Chevy, though we do also get a head-up display here in the Hyundai as well. Again, not quite as large. We do have a rear view camera mirror up there, but I really do appreciate the physical buttons that we get here, volume and tuning, and physical controls for our HVAC, even if they are like haptic touch areas on this big screen. Down here we get more physical buttons for the seat controls on a center console that does move and slide. We'll talk more about how that works in practicality a little bit later. We do have different materials, colors, and textures here, much like in the Chevy, but again, a very simplistic overall design in the IONIQ 5. The back seat of the IONIQ, much like the front seat, very simplistic in nature, single tone seating. We do get a dark seat back on these, which I really appreciate as a father of a kid in a child seat who is always kicking the backs of the seats. I'm glad that even though we do get this cloth-like material, this denim-like material up top that is lighter in color, we get this hard plastic down here where Tucker will inevitably be kicking. Other things I like back here, we've got some air vents, USB power, a little additional storage back here, and all the same colors, materials, textures, and design elements we saw up front are repeated back here in the back seat of the IONIQ. All right, so who wins my vote for best interior style? Well, I would have to say that goes to the Blazer EV. I don't know, call me biased, but that pop of orange just really sets this one apart. It's aggressive style, just like the exterior. I don't know will be as timeless, but as an interior, I'm going to have to see a lot of if I buy either one of these for myself. I think I would rather look at the interior of the Blazer a little bit longer than the IONIQ. There's just a little more visual interest here to the interior of the Blazer versus the IONIQ. And again, if we don't get the SS model, we still get red and black accents in the RS, which does translate to a direct competitor to the Limited, though undercuts it by just a little bit. Not to say the interior of the IONIQ is by any means to be left behind or forgotten about. It's just a little more simplistic in its approach, helping you focus on what you're actually in the vehicle to do, and that's to drive it. Now, since we have talked so much about interior design, let's talk a little bit of interior practicality and usability, of which perhaps my opinions will change. All right, when talking about interior usability, we have to talk about how you get in. We do not have passive entry here on the Blazer. We have this keyless push button here on the door that the way we currently have it set up, you push it once on the driver's door, it only unlocks the driver's door, and then we get the same thing on all the others. But here, if you push it, it actually locks and unlocks all of the doors. So that is a nice touch. I like that well enough. But as we get in and open the doors, you can see it does have the nicer of the two interiors, in my opinion. And then a really cool feature, you don't actually have to start the vehicle. You just get in and sit down. The vehicle knows the key is in here, will come to life accordingly, which I kind of actually like once I get used to it. It is a little disarming at first because you don't have to do anything. You can speed up the process by putting your foot on the brake, but generally speaking, you just get in and use the vehicle. Now I can put it in drive and set off or put it back in park. I am going to have to turn the air on just a little bit in here. It is getting quite warm today. We do have a lot of screen real estate here in front of us, but we will talk technology in a little bit later segment. I really do like some of the features in here. We get hands-free Super Cruise and the like. Overall, general interior usability. Let's talk more storage than anything else here. So, like many EVs, we have a very useful, versatile center console. You can see very large, deep well here. Very large lid, though, which does open up and completely separates you from the back seats. It is nicely padded. We have a Qi wireless charger right here that in my experience, has not worked consistently. It's got a rubber-esque feeling setting right here, but in testing of an iPhone 13 and my iPhone 16 Pro Max, we have not gotten consistent charging out of it. GM does good wireless chargers. This one just ain't it. The same rubber-like material is repeated up here underneath the air vents for a little bit more storage of items. I guess I can put my iPad back here if I want to, so that stores it up out of the way. You can see we have USB charging right there, so I can plug up my iPad and charge it if I so wanted to. So we get some nice charging right there. But one downside that I noted, we do have this large storage well right here, which negates having an actual pass-through with a roller cover. However, when you have anything plugged into it, you cannot actually close the roller cover, which is just a major oversight to me. We do have some cup holders here, which are nice, the typical GM rubber grippers here, and some gloss black plastic that even with under 1,000 miles on our tester is showing some scratching, some wear and tear. I don't love it. Get a lot of gloss black around here as well, but I guess it all translates with the screens. We do have some nice comfort functions here. We have 2-person memory for our 8-way driver's seat here, so 8-way power driver's seat. We do have a manual tilt and telescoping steering wheel on our model here, and dual zone climate controls here. We do have heated and ventilated front seats, which is nice. And we do get a decent size glove box here that is not felt lined, but you could see is very damped. Get a little bit of storage in the doors as well as storage in the door handles right there. We get a 2-switch mechanism for our roof. Well, 3-switch really. So you get 1 switch for the sunshade, which is sliding open right now. Then you can slide open the glass roof or just tilt it open. I like the functionality of this because you don't have to worry about accidentally opening the glass roof when you just want a little extra sunshine on the inside. That contrasts to what we will see a little bit later in the Hyundai. Also, nice features here. We have some thinly padded visors here, but they are nice and large. You open them up. We do have illuminated vanity lights right in the visor themselves. But as you could tell, I did have to take my garage door opener off because these are just so thin. That has been a GM hallmark for the past few years. Coming to the back seat, again, I already showed you the entry method on the doors. You open them up, nice wide opening doors, though I feel like they could go a little bit wider, not quite 90 degrees here. While I was taking pictures of this, I actually had to double check and make sure I had them open all the way, but you still have plenty of room, at least I have plenty of room to climb in and get in. Unfortunately, we do not have any built-in sunshades here in the back doors, but we get all the same design themes in the back seat here. We do have these hard plastic lower latch covers that just lift up out of the way, making it very easy to attach a child seat back here in the back. We only get them on the outboard seats. We do get a center seat belt. We do get a center headrest that rises up, as well as a nice couple of cup holders here. We do have reclining seats, though you have to do it from the over-the-shoulder method right here versus having a lever down there. Coming back to the back seat, we do have some nice big air vents on the back of the center console, heated outboard seats, some power, no storage on the back of the driver's seat, but we do have storage on the back of the passenger seat. And then the center seat here is lower than the 2 exterior seats, which means I can sit here and still have decent headroom in the middle seat back here. Yes, I'm next to Tucker's child safety seat, but this is a very wide vehicle, nearly as wide as a full-size pickup truck. So we are verging on a much larger vehicle class here in the Blazer EV. So I would say, yeah, space and overall livability in the back seat is very nice. And then EVs are known for their rear seat legroom. You can see we've got a lot here. 44 inches in the front, more than the IONIQ, a little bit less than the IONIQ here in the second row. And of course, these seats are fixed in place. What the IONIQ 5 lacks on interior style versus a Blazer, it makes up for in practicality. First and foremost, we do have passive entry because the door handles present themselves when you get close to the vehicle, showing that the doors are unlocked. The way we currently have it set up, they all present themselves as I approach the vehicle. And then when I get in, nice wide opening doors, make it very easy to get in. Very good grab handles all the way across here with storage if you wanted to put some storage items here or down there. And then we come into the vehicle itself. You do actually have to start this one if you haven't like remote started it by pushing the brake and the engine or vehicle start button right there. Everything whirs to life. Again, very typical screen setup in here for a modern Hyundai product. Two 12.3-inch screens. We do have that head-up display up there, as well as our rear view camera mirror. All physical controls here for your most used items, which I really like. We do have CarPlay in this one. We'll touch more on that later. Qi wireless charger right here, right in hand's reach, which is very nice. Lots of USB-C ports in this vehicle. We've got one right there, and we've got two further down here in the center console. This center console is very unique in the automotive landscape. We've got this little island here with our cup holders, our wireless charger, and all of our quick access buttons. So I've got my ventilated seats I can control from there, as well as access my 360 cameras, things like that. Heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel. We do have a manual tilt and telescoping steering wheel in this one as well. The gear selector is slightly different than what we get in the Chevy, but it is hidden behind the steering wheel here. We do get a decent center console here. It's still a large lid, but it doesn't open up quite as high. It's nowhere near as deep. That's because we have this big wide open section down here that you can put your purse in. If you bring a purse, you've got a lot of space. We were actually able to put some to-go containers of food down here. And then what makes it really special in this segment is the fact that it moves. So there's a handle right here that you can grab and slide it forward and back. So now I've got more pass-through space up here. We have some additional storage space down here below the wireless chargers. So all of that translates to a very usable interior. And then here we have a damped, very interestingly designed glove box here. So you've got a little storage in the door, but a very large pocket that doesn't even move back behind it. So that is nice. We already touched on the storage there in the doors. Lots of storage options in the front here. Coming to the visors, you can see we have a nice thick visor here with a vanity mirror, but our light is actually up here. I don't feel like these do as well for illuminating at night your face or whatever you may be looking at here in the mirror as what we saw in the Chevy. You can see we do have the rear view camera mirror in this one. And then we have a single switch for the giant single pane glass roof. This is a split opening retractable shade, so that does make it much quicker to open and close, but you cannot open the glass roof itself. That is something that is a little bit of a miss in a hot East Texas climate. Sometimes you just want to let all the hot air out the ceiling, but we just get a single very dark tinted roof here that does prove to be a very nice addition for rear passengers, which we'll show you here in just a moment. Another thing I really like about the usability of the interior of the IONIQ 5 is the relaxation seat. While you're waiting on your vehicle to charge, you can simply push the buttons on the side of the seat. It does recline and extend the thigh support to give you a nice comfortable seating position for the short time that your IONIQ 5 is charging. Getting into the back seat, just like the front, we have the door handles that extend and show themselves to you. But when you get back here, you can see we do have some more amenities, including a nearly full width sunshade for the back doors back here built into the doors, which is very nice on a family vehicle. Much like up front, we get all the storage in the grab handle right there. You get storage down there, which is very nice. You can see we do get reclining seats, but a more traditional place for that recline mechanism. Sliding into the back seat, you can see we get storage pockets on the backs of both seats, which is nice. We get storage underneath the sliding center console here. More power back here. No air vents on the center console itself, again, because it moves, but we do get air vents here on the side of the vehicle, on the B-pillar. I feel like these do a little bit better job getting airflow to the outboard seats, but if you're sitting in the middle, you're a little left out. Unlike the Chevy, this is the same height or slightly higher seat here in the middle, and it is also a narrower vehicle. Looking up, you can see because we have just one big pane of glass, we have a better view out of the top here, but sadly we cannot open that glass. As we take a look at the seats, you can note that the latch points are hidden behind the seat back and seat bottom here. Again, they are just on the outboard seats. We do have that seat belt for the middle seat, which is nice. That is seat mounted. We do have a fold down armrest. We do have a lift up headrest here. So we do get all the same comforts and amenities here, just on a slightly narrower seat. And then one last thing I do want to call out is the entire seat does slide forward and back. I'm going to go ahead and climb in to show you that. It is a 60-40 split, but you can slide the seat well forward to make more cargo room back in the back if you need it. You can see just how different the two sections are here. And I do appreciate how it slides independently of the other side here so that Tucker's car seat can remain in a comfortable position, and we can move this one forward or backward if we need to. So that is a very useful feature on the inside of the IONIQ 5. The interior style of the Blazer EV is definitely my pick for winter, but the vehicle I would rather spend more time in and with from a daily livability standpoint is the IONIQ 5. It just has a more practical, more useful interior. So chalk another win up for the IONIQ 5. When it comes to rear cargo storage on these vehicles, they both have a very unique, very similar design aspect for getting into the back of the vehicle. It's the hands-free operation. No kicking or dancing underneath the bumper needs to take place. You just have to have the key on your pocket or on your person, and you come back to the vehicle. They beep a few times at you, and then they open up. Very nice hands-free way of getting into the vehicles. Now, unfortunately, there isn't too much to talk about differentiating these two, even though it does seem like they are quite different. Even though the Blazer is a much larger vehicle, the interior storage space on both is quite similar. The IONIQ actually has more space behind the second row of seats than the Blazer does, but not by a whole lot. And then we have that sliding second row seat, so that does fluctuate a little bit. Fold these seats down and you can see, well, yes, the Blazer is a longer vehicle, so it gets more total storage space if you fold the back seats down, though between the two of them, they really are neck and neck. And then, yes, there are some cool additional storage items and options areas, like underneath the floor here in the Blazer. We have a very deep well that you can put some tall stuff, like our charge cord that came with this one, underneath the floor here in the Blazer. And in the IONIQ, we get a very similar false load floor, though we have a hinge here on this one, and you can pull it out and actually stick it up into place, where you can get to our charge cord here in this one and our tire mobility kit. Neither one of these has a full spare, so we do have a little extra storage space underneath here, though in the rear of the vehicle, the Chevy Blazer definitely has more under floor storage than the IONIQ. And then the IONIQ does have one additional trick up its sleeve. Unlike under the hood of the Blazer EV, we get a little bit extra storage underneath the hood of the IONIQ 5, albeit under a secondary need to open plastic cover here. So you can't store a lot of items underneath here, but given that both of these vehicles now have charge port adapters, you can perhaps, instead of storing them in the back like we have right here, grab them one-handed and store those up underneath the hood here with this felt-lined, carpet-lined section here, so you aren't going to get a lot of rattles. Close that in there, and now you've just got a little bit of extra storage that, unfortunately, the Blazer does not offer you. So when talking about EVs, the number one question we always get is range. How far can it go on a single charge? and that number varies wildly. I don't think that is the right question. We're trying too hard to fit EV life into gas life. It's not quite the same, but we can talk about range in both of these vehicles. For 2025, Hyundai improved the battery chemistry and the overall battery size to give you a longer range here in this top trim Limited, though this is not the longest range version of the vehicle. Here in this Limited, we get an EPA estimated 269 miles of total range on a single charge. We'll talk more about charging here in a moment, but Hyundai does have a few tricks up their sleeve with this particular vehicle. We do have dual motor electric all-wheel drive in this one, and I'm actually quite impressed with the efficiency of this vehicle. The EPA estimates it at 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour, which is very impressive in the EV space, especially considering we've been testing some wildly inefficient ones lately in the Hummer EV and moderately efficient ones in the Ford F-150 Lightning. Now, over here, we have the performance spec of the Chevrolet Blazer. Again, this is not completely apples to apples in these two trims, but we do have, again, dual motor electric all-wheel drive. The SS variant does get the largest battery at 102 kilowatt hours versus the 84 kilowatt hours in the Hyundai IONIQ. It is estimated at 303 miles of total range on a full charge. Now, this is a bigger and heavier vehicle than the Hyundai IONIQ, so it is estimated at a 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour. And yes, those aren't terribly helpful numbers in the grand scheme of things. 2.5 versus 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour. And that's where I get into what is the proper questions we should be asking versus how far can it go on a single charge, because, well, that all depends on your driving style. What we really should be asking is total battery size. Again, 84 kilowatt hours in this one, 102 kilowatt hours in this one. The estimated efficiency, 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour, 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour. From there, and from your driving style of each, you should be able to figure out just how far you should be able to drive in your typical situation, because these are very efficient in city driving. We're actually getting 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour in the Hyundai right now, and vastly different when you get them out on the highway. Oh my gosh, here we go. But in this head-to-head comparison of range, I do have to give the prize to the 102 kilowatt hour, 303 mile estimated Chevy Blazer EV SS. It's just how the numbers came out this time. Okay, so we've talked about range, but let's talk about charging these two vehicles. They're both a little head scratching because both claim to be 800 volt architecture vehicles, though this one can only charge up to 190 kilowatts, which is a little disappointing when you're talking about the 102 kilowatt hour battery found underneath this one. That does mean that you are going to be charging this one for a lot longer. It's slower to charge and it has a bigger battery. Though you can charge it at a Tesla supercharger because you are supplied with this adapter. So you can see CCS here, NACS or NACS Tesla plug here. Underneath this very slow operating charge port door, you have a J1772/CCS plug. It's in an interesting placement to go to Tesla charging stations, because if you know anything about charging a Tesla, all of their charge ports are on the back side of the driver's side, so you're going to be pulling headfirst in to charge your vehicle here, but at least you don't have to worry about the short versus long cables here when charging your Blazer EV. Coming over here to the IONIQ 5. This is the first non-Tesla vehicle to have a native NACS plug on the vehicle itself. So no adapters needed to plug in and charge with the Tesla supercharger network. So over 15,000 stations unlocked natively, no adapters. You can just plug up and go. But weirdly, the charge port door is on the wrong side of the back of the vehicle, so you are going to have potentially some charging infrastructure issues if you are going to a Tesla station, because you're going to back up and be using the wrong Tesla cord here at the back. And interestingly enough too, this actually charges faster using CCS. It can charge over 230 kilowatts using the supplied, yes, adapter. So now we have it going in the opposite direction. We have NACS to CCS. This does charge faster using this adapter and using something like the EVgo or Electrify America or Iona charging networks here in the States, but you're going to be needing this adapter. Also supplied with the vehicle is this secondary adapter for the J1772 plug. This is what we've been using for our home charging needs. It's very nice and compact, but just something you are going to need to make sure stays with the vehicle and can charge wherever you go, because the charge cord that comes with the vehicle does too have the NACS plug on it. So smaller battery, quicker charger. Yes, this charges faster, and it even charges faster than the 2024 model it replaces. Hyundai reworked the battery chemistry and made this a better vehicle. So in the charging competition between the two, the winner is clear. The IONIQ 5 is the better and quicker charging EV. Now that I'm sitting inside here where I will spend all of my time, let's talk a little bit about technology, because there is a lot here. Not only do we have rear mounted cameras, we have full 360 cameras on this that can be triggered at any time, whether I'm moving or sitting still. Something I really appreciate about the GM lawyers, allowing me to choose when I get to see around the vehicle, and you really can see all the way around your vehicle. I really do like just how good the 360 cameras are here in the Blazer EV. So very nice there. Though the one downside of this big, massive 17.7-inch screen is there's no CarPlay. In fact, you can see my phone is now connected through Bluetooth. If I want to listen to any of my music, I'm relegated to this sort of interface and layout. You can see my controls down here, play, pause, forward and back, all that stuff is hidden in the similarity of all the designs with the HVAC controls. It's just not the best overall. I really, 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 really wish CarPlay and Android Auto were allowed in this vehicle, because it is a major distraction. We were trying to use this vehicle over the weekend to go to a few garage sales around town, and just putting in the multiple different destinations through the Google built-in this vehicle did lend itself to be a slight problem, because it had to be done through the screen. And if you are in motion, you can't type on the screen, you have to use your voice. One of the streets we were trying to go to was Fry. She heard F-R-Y-E, couldn't find the street even though it was F-R-Y, and we were literally blocks away from it. So just aggravating technology from that aspect. In fact, Google even asked me, like, how can we improve? Were you satisfied with how we helped you with this navigational experience? And I said, no, I wasn't satisfied, because you couldn't even find the street 2 blocks away from me. Other things I really do like in here though, massive head-up display on this one. Really do like that. And the next two things kind of go together. We have GM's safety seat that pairs well with their hands-free Super Cruise. The safety seat basically has motors in it to vibrate and let you know if there is a vehicle or obstacle in any of your blind spots, if you're about to back into something, pull into something. If there is something the vehicle needs to alert you of, you'll get a little vibrate from your seat bottom, as well as auditory alerts and visual alerts all the way around your vehicle. Really do like the safety seat, and that is a prerequisite to getting GM's Super Cruise hands-free driving, which we will talk about when we are actually driving the Blazer EV. When talking about technology in the IONIQ, we had to start with the fact that we now have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, something the Chevy did not even offer at all. Now, I will note I am currently plugged in to achieve CarPlay and Android Auto. That is simply because most of the filming today has taken place on my phone, and I need a little bit more juice. And the USB-C charging charges a lot faster than the Qi wireless charger right here. So I like that a lot. Other things I really like in here from a technology standpoint, the cameras. Cameras are very good, very crisp, very clear. But this feature right here is perhaps my favorite. You can pan around the vehicle itself, and you can even see the Blazer EV looming in the distance over there. But it is just very nice to be able to pan around and see all around your vehicle. The amount of compute power that goes into me just being able to flick around the car like this is actually quite impressive. So I really do like that. I can actually see in front of and behind me as well. I get trajectory lines. I also get a rear view camera mirror up here, which helps me see out the back, though I do have a better view out of the much wider and taller rear view window in this one, so I like that a lot. I do get a heads-up display in this one, though it is nowhere near as big as everything in that Blazer. In fact, all of the screens aren't as big as in the Blazer, with the exception of the screen on the rear view mirror. There's even another feature that I absolutely love in this that comes in handy more often than you would think, and that is remote smart park. So you can actually move the vehicle without actually being in the vehicle. So say if somebody in a giant blue Blazer EV parks too close to you, you can simply pull your vehicle up and out of the way so that you can climb in very easily and then just set off, something you can't do in a lot of other vehicles. So from a technology standpoint, while the Blazer EV has a lot to offer, I think the technology package here in the IONIQ 5 definitely wins out. So score another win for Hyundai with the IONIQ 5. Setting off in the 2025 Chevrolet Blazer EV SS all-wheel drive. I have opinions. I have lots of opinions, and sadly they aren't all great opinions. I tested the Blazer EV a couple years ago when they were first hitting the market, before most press even got their chance to get behind the wheel. Information was very scarce, and I was just having to go off of what the dealer told me at that point in time. Unfortunately, the power numbers they told me versus reality were a little bit different, which resulted in less than stellar experiences when accelerating in it. But here in this particular one, we have multiple different drive modes, which includes sport and wide open watts. So I can push this button right here and I get the sound effect package, and then I can firmly stand on the brake, firmly stand on the accelerator, lift off the accelerator, and my gosh, the gut punch of acceleration you get as this thing pulls to 60. It is very quick, much quicker than the RS I tested a few years ago, and it's 615 horsepower, 650 pound-feet of torque. Kind of lends itself to, yes, being faster than the sub 300 horsepower RS. Why there is such a big gap in performance between the RS and this, I don't know that I will ever fully comprehend, but that is the case. There is a massive jump up in overall power from RS to SS, and that is slightly unfortunate in the grand scheme of things. Otherwise, when driving this around town in normal mode or sport mode, however the case may be, however you see fit to drive your vehicle, it does ride quite well. I have always said EVs make great luxury vehicles. When we were talking about the exterior styling and the interior space, all that is because this is an EV and the wheels are able to be stretched out and the batteries are placed low. So the center of gravity is in the middle of the vehicle, down low in the vehicle, and the wheelbase is stretched out to really give you the best ride quality overall. That was a 3.1 second 0 to 60 run according to the onboard computer, which very nice. Oh my gosh. Also, being an EV, we had to talk about one pedal drive, which can be configured here on the screen or triggered almost instantaneously from this pedal on the steering wheel. You can toggle it on right here, but then you have to hit another button to set your level. You could do off, normal, or high, and you can have it show on the home screen, which is when it's displayed right over here. Typically speaking, I don't really love the one pedal drive here in the Blazer EV. It is a little too aggressive, not really nuanced enough for how I drive with it. And the way you turn it on and off just doesn't work for me. It's all buried in the screen, or like really aggressive here with this one paddle on the back of the steering wheel. It is not the best overall method for one pedal drive that I've seen in EVs. That mark still goes to Hyundai and all their EV products. And with that low center of gravity, with that long wheelbase, it does have a very nice ride, very smooth, very seamless, very comfortable, very luxury-like, very luxury car-like. And then its instantaneous torque means, yes, even in normal mode, I can just like zip around cars in traffic. I can quickly move around, and if a light turns on me, I can quickly make a decision whether I'm going to go through it or stop with my 6-piston Brembo brakes up front, which is a nice touch here again in the SS version. Some things I don't like. This is the heavier of the two vehicles. This is the heaviest Blazer EV you can get, and they have a hard time hiding that because when you come to a stop, it jiggles. We do have a sport tune suspension here in this SS model, which again is to help with the sportiness of it, but that doesn't help that this vehicle weighs nearly 900 pounds more than that IONIQ 5 that we're also testing. This nearly 6,000 pound SUV just weighs a lot, and it really is hard to hide that mass, hide the physics that correspond to that mass when you're driving this vehicle around. Sure, the added power and instantaneous torque make it feel very light and spry, but in all reality, when you're driving this one around, especially stop and go traffic, you're made very aware of the heft of this vehicle every time you come to a stop. And you get that little jiggle. So I mentioned earlier hands-free Super Cruise, which works best on roads like pre-mapped interstate roads with limited access, because that does it all. Not only does it keep you centered in your lane, completely hands-free, not only does it adjust your speed to the vehicles in front of you, completely feet-free, but if you come up to slower traffic and there is a free lane, it will do automatic lane changes. I am not currently on the interstate, which again speaks to how well Chevrolet and General Motors have improved Super Cruise over the years. I'm actually on a highway, a state highway going through town. Right now, yes, I'm in stop and go traffic, but when we actually get going outside of all of the traffic here, I can actually hit this hands-free Super Cruise button on the steering wheel, and if the road is in General Motors system and if all the conditions are met, it will actually give me hands-free driving, even not on interstate roads, which really is the big plus of the system. Now, what Super Cruise does not do is really keep you in the lanes on every other road. It has to be pre-mapped. There has to be information in the Super Cruise system for the road that you are on. So as of yet, I am yet to get to a pre-mapped road in the Super Cruise system. On top of that, you have to pay a subscription for it. So yes, you have to keep your OnStar subscription activated in order for Super Cruise to work. So while yes, it is the tip-top hands-free driving system in my opinion, it does come with certain limitations, the biggest of which is the subscription and having to be on pre-mapped roads for even lane centering to work quite as well as what you will see in the Hyundai when we get behind the wheel of that one. Okay, other things of this one from a pure driving standpoint. for the most part, I can see out of it quite well, though the further back to the back of the vehicle we get, the smaller the windows get. So my view over my shoulders is a little tight, especially that third window back there. Thankfully, I do have a camera on the tailgate that also serves as my rear view camera, because I already showed you just how limited the view is out of that tight back window back there with the teeny tiny rear wiper. But generally speaking, this is an easy vehicle to get in and drive. No matter what drive mode you're in, it is very nice, easy, and effortless. The all-wheel drive in this, unlike many other all-wheel drive crossover-based vehicles I've driven from Chevrolet, is always on. You are always getting all-wheel drive traction in this. You don't have to hit a button over your left knee to maintain all-wheel drive stability. That's just a hands down all the time thing, which I really do like in this. I really do also like the low center of gravity for its overall drivability. You aren't getting a lot of body roll in this. It is a very comfortable vehicle. That's why I say you shouldn't sleep on the Blazer EV on any trim. It is a nice vehicle, but is it the best EV, the best driving EV? Well, let's hop into the IONIQ and talk through some of its driving characteristics. Setting off in this one, the gear selector is on the back of the steering stalk right there, and it's a very easy vehicle to just hop in and drive. While I did do 3-second 0 to 60 runs in that Blazer EV, this limited model of the IONIQ is not the performance trim. That would be the IONIQ 5N, which does have 641 horsepower and just under 600 pound-feet of torque, and could run right alongside that Blazer EV without much problem. Though that's not to say I'm not going to see exactly what seat of the pants acceleration feels like here in this IONIQ 5 Limited. My drive mode is a button here on the steering wheel. I'm just going to come to a complete stop, floor it, and drop the brake, and off we go. Yeah, this thing is still plenty quick thanks to its very powerful dual motor all-wheel drive, and it is very repeatable too. I do wish we had bigger brakes like the Brembo 6-piston brakes we have on that Blazer EV, but again, this is not the performance model. You're not really going to be doing a lot of performance driving in this one. Otherwise, setting off and driving this one, this feels more car-like than the Blazer EV, much more car-like, and that's because it weighs about 900 pounds less than the Blazer. When I compared the curb weights of these two, I instantly knew, yeah, that's going to be a problem. And then actually getting in these two, you can feel it instantly. This just feels more like a normal car. Yes, it's got plenty of power. Yes, it has instantaneous torque. So it feels light and spry, and you can throw yourself back in the seat just with the jab of the accelerator. But even in regular driving, whether it be maneuvering or stopping, for instance, you can absolutely feel the additional heft in that Blazer EV over this IONIQ. It just cannot be hidden. Physics cannot be denied. Moving that much mass will result in compromises in other ways, in other areas. So the extra weight of the Blazer EV definitely translates to its overall driving characteristic. Also, the Blazer EV only had 3 more inches of wheelbase, so I will say these are very comparable in overall ride feel, I will say, in that we still have a very long for its class wheelbase that helps you kind of glide over everything. Not weighing nearly as much as the Blazer EV, it doesn't feel as heavy going over bumps as the Blazer EV, but it is still very smooth. Having all that weight down under the cabin of the vehicle versus in the nose for a gas engine or something like that does translate into a very smooth ride overall. But I think the better riding of the two vehicles is definitely this IONIQ, and a lot of that again comes down to the weight and the fact that yes, that one does have the sport suspension, but even the RS model significantly weighs more than this. So again, weight and physics are just a dynamic that cannot be ignored. Now, while the Chevy did have Super Cruise that did allow for hands-free driving in many different scenarios, Hyundai does have a very good lane centering, lane keeping system in their vehicles. Simple push of the button here, and the vehicle is looking for the lines in the road. And while no, I do not recommend, neither does Hyundai, you letting go of the steering wheel in driving situations like this, you can see just how well it holds to the center line, something the Blazer cannot do, will not do, if a road was not pre-mapped with LiDAR from their Super Cruise team. It has to be pre-mapped for it to have even this level of lane keeping, lane tracing. While the Blazer does have lane departure alert, lane warning alerts, it doesn't hold you in the lane quite as well as this IONIQ does. And the fact that the IONIQ can do it on any road that the vehicle itself can pick up the lines of the road on really is saying a lot for the vehicle itself. It is doing a lot of it on vehicle, in vehicle, not requiring you to pay for an OnStar subscription, for instance. Though, again, with that OnStar subscription, in theory, all its capabilities can only get better over time, but you're also having to pay for it over time. Lastly, visibility, very big aspect to drivability. And no, I don't get a third window over my shoulder like I do in the Blazer EV. I think the overall visibility in this one is very good. Not only can I see out of the much larger, taller windows in this one all the way around, but I do also have blind spot cameras that come on when I turn my blinkers on that help me see in my blind spots. And I also get audible and visual warnings from the vehicle itself and the head-up display in front of me, letting me know, yeah, there's somebody in your blind spot. Don't do anything. And I even get a little shake from the safety steering wheel here as well. So again, visibility is a definite plus here in the IONIQ 5. I guess one last aspect to the technology segment of this is, while you have to pay for OnStar on a subscription basis, if you are the original owner of a Hyundai vehicle, their BlueLink system stays with you throughout your ownership of the vehicle, which is a very nice touch and something that just adds to the overall livability and owner desirability of each of these vehicles. So yes, now that I am in stop and go traffic, not only can I use the lane centering, lane tracing, which works as well as the hands-free Super Cruise does nearly on the highway, I also get the added benefit of being able to come to a nice smooth stop in this. So I don't know if it is the SS's sport suspension or just the massive additional weight on that Blazer EV, but this is definitely the more comfortable vehicle of the two to drive and feels the most natural coming from a gas-powered car into the EV world. It's just better. So just chalk that up to another win for Hyundai with the IONIQ 5. All right, let's bring things to a little more subjective comparison when it comes to overall livability, ownership, livelihood, things like that, and talk about the warranty in these two vehicles, because we can compare those with the Monroney, the window sticker right here. Luckily, both brands do give their warranty information on the window sticker themselves. So listed under owner benefits, the first thing you see, 3-year, 36,000 mile bumper to bumper new car warranty. So that's everything within it being covered for 3 years, 36,000 miles. Then a very interesting one for me, being a Chevrolet owner myself, 8-year, 100,000 mile electric vehicle propulsion battery warranty. So that's the big battery underneath of us. It also applies to courtesy transportation and roadside assistance and towing to that battery. So if anything happens in the first 8 years or 100,000 miles of owning your Chevy EV, you're covered under warranty. And then you get a 5-year, 60,000 mile other roadside assistance coverage. So say a wheel falls off or you have a flat tire, things like that. You also get your first maintenance visit covered. So there is the warranty for your 2025 Chevrolet Blazer EV SS. Okay, so I have the Monroney here, which has all the warranty information on it as well. They do claim America's best warranty. We do have a 5-year, 60,000 mile new vehicle warranty. Think of that as Chevy's bumper-to-bumper warranty. 10-year, 100,000 mile powertrain warranty. 10-year, 100,000 mile EV system warranty. 7-year unlimited mile anti-perforation warranty, 3-year 36,000 mile complimentary maintenance, which is a little bit different in an EV versus a gas vehicle, and then 5-year unlimited mile roadside assistance. So yes, even though I can't test overall long-term livability, as well as the warranty says, this is the better of the two vehicles in that department. Production. Also on the Monroneys is where all of these vehicles come from, where they're made, where a major source of their parts are from. And the current administration really does have us focusing on where vehicles are built and wanting them in the United States themselves. And well, this Chevrolet, this American vehicle, is made in Mexico. Its final assembly point is in Mexico. Only 12% of the parts in this vehicle are US or Canadian sourced parts. So that is fairly low on that scheme of things. And then the next two countries with a high sourced part volume, Mexico obviously at 46%. And interestingly enough, comparing it against a Korean vehicle, 20% of the parts in this Blazer EV come from Korea. All right, going back to the Hyundai Monroney, this is the first vehicle to come out of Hyundai's new Meta plant just outside of Savannah in Ellabelle, Georgia. I have been there myself, and as you're watching this, I probably will have seen it before and now after its completion, and it is a very impressive place. Though it's very interesting how similar these two vehicles are in their overall parts content, because we have about 29% US Canadian parts in this, 29% Korean parts in this, which is to be expected with a Korean vehicle, but not 20% in that American vehicle back there, and 33% of parts from Hungary. So this, yes, manufactured in Georgia in the United States and with more American parts. So yeah, I'd say this is the clear winner in the American buildability department as well. All right, last overall value, and this is where I say, yes, this is not an apples to apples. An RS to a Limited or an SS to an N would be a more direct comparison. I will go ahead and say though, this SS starts at $60,600, which is a stone's throw away from the as tested price on that Limited back behind me, with the roof and the performance brakes being the main difference in price from the as tested to the current or the starting price. The final as tested price of this one, including destination, $64,180. Though if we do a more apples to apples comparison, the $58,000 Hyundai IONIQ 5 Limited would compare more appropriately to a $61,210 RS all-wheel drive, which has 283 miles of range, very much in line with that one, 300 horsepower and 355 pound-feet of torque, both of which fall short of that one. So again, they're not direct competitors in any way, shape, or form, but what does that IONIQ look like in the overall value standpoint? Coming back to the Hyundai Monroney, again, this is where the apples to apples comparison does kind of fall apart. So aside from the Monroney here, I do have a few notes on my iPad for the overall value, because if I were to get an in-model that would more closely rate to that SS back behind me. That would sticker for $61,210. It only has 221 miles of range, but has more power at 641 horsepower and 568 pound-feet of torque. Though for this limited trim, we have a starting price of $58,100 and an as-tested price of $59,785. So really, the overall better price is this limited, and the overall better value is this IONIQ 5 limited as well. Sorry to say that Blazer is just a little too pricey, and the RS model would make this a little bit of a closer call. Well, there you have it, gearheads, an 11-point inspection on these two $60-ish thousand EV SUVs that don't wear a Tesla badge on the nose and tail. If you have been keeping score at home, you will realize that of the 11, the Blazer won 2 of the contests, whereas the IONIQ took away the latter 9. So the obvious winner here, where I would spend my money, is with the IONIQ. I really do appreciate all these small updates that the IONIQ 5 got for 2025, really compensating for the few shortfalls we saw when we tested this vehicle when it first came out. The rear wiper is a win. The fact that we have CarPlay is a win. And the overall general usability of this and drivability, thanks to that standard NACS port, a charging port on the back of the vehicle, really does make this a hands-down winner. That's not to say you should skip the Chevrolet Blazer EV, especially in this Performance SS trim. Do I think this head-to-head comparison would have come out any differently if I had an RS to a Limited or the SS to an N? No, I really don't think so. Overall, you get a feel of these two platforms from these two vehicles. And me personally, I am just leaning ever so slightly more towards the IONIQ, but the Blazer is still a good platform. Riding on Chevy's Ultium platform, their modular technology, you can get a front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, or all-wheel drive version of this vehicle, starting at a much lower price point than this $64,000 tester we have here. So, in the grand scheme of things, yes, I would probably spend my money here, save a little over the SS, and perhaps be a little happier in the long run. But how these two stack up for you is, well, up to you. If you want to see more from us, including our deep dives on each, be sure and hit that subscribe button down below and ring the bell so you are notified when future videos drop from us. Find us on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, Threads, YouTube, you name it. Everything is at GT Garage Talk, or you can go to gtgaragetalk.com where you can read more about both of these or find links to everything that we do from there. But as for me, with these two EVs, until next time, gearheads, bye.